216 Creator Studios, your gateway to professional podcasting. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting, 216 Creator Studios offers state-of-the-art podcast studios designed to meet all your recording needs. From crystal clear audio quality to a comfortable creative space, we've got you covered. With fully equipped rooms, expert support, and flexible booking options, you can focus on what matters most, your content. Join us and bring your voice to life in the best environment for podcast creation. 216 Creator Studios is here to help you create something extraordinary.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Cappuccino behind the screen once again on another episode of Roger That Chronicles. Hey, listen, if you like what you see here today, go to the old Google box there, go to YouTube, click on that live tab for 216 Creator Studios. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, ding that bell for future notifications. We appreciate your support. Chris,
hey.
Once again, we come back to the table with geniuses. Are you okay over there, young man?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Awesome.
It's that coffee.
He's got his coffee. They got the donuts today on the table. I'm telling you, it's going to be an awesome conversation. Last round, Chris, we did Boots on the Ground. Today is Boots on the Ground Part 2. We're talking leadership, service, and a little bit of impact and how that works at this table with the stories of greatness. So I'm going to let you go and do what you do best.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks for letting us host the show here. We've really been enjoying it. Joining it.
There you go.
Sometimes it's just hard to talk. I'm with New Life Ministry and Outreach, NLM&O. It's a mouthful. And we use a proactive, progressive approach to empower and equip our veterans as they're transitioning from the military into civilian life. So today we've got some more Army veterans with us. So we've got CJ right here, and we've got Josh, and we have Jim. And thank you guys for coming and being on the show. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So just to kick off, if you could just, say your name, your rank, what you did in the Army during your time. I'll go ahead and start with Jim.
Okay. Right now?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. My name is Jim McGee. Let's see. Back in 1968, I got a card in the mail. And they were nice enough to say, come on down. We'd like to give you a physical. And I thought, yeah, right. I know what's going on now. There were no draft numbers at that time. At least not. I never got one. So a week later, I got a card from a recruiter saying, do we have a deal for you? Normally, if you enlist, it's 3 years. So we have a special 2-year enlistment. You can choose what you'd like to do. And so I figured, well, at least go listen to him. And I liked what he said. And the 2 years sounded really good. And then I could choose, I want to do rockets or something technical. And lo and behold, by January, I was on my way to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home of the 82nd Airborne. And in the Army. So I officially went in January 30th. No, January 31st, 1969. And from there, I saw an airborne demonstration. And the Golden Knights were flying down out of the sky. On a hilltop, there was a whole battalion of guys. And I was into World War II big time because my dad was in the Army, Air Force, World War II. So we were all into it big time. And then when I saw the Golden Knights floating down out of the sky, I said, I want to do that.
Don't we all?
Yes, I got to do that. So I ran down to the bottom of the hill and signed up. Not realizing it took the place of anything I would ever thought I was going to do as far as signing up when I enlisted. So from there, I went to Fort Gordon in Georgia, right in Augusta, Georgia, for infantry mortars. And also was airborne infantry for those going to jump school. So I finished that. Then I went to Benning for jump school, and then I heard about the NCOC opportunity, and because I was only in for 2 years, elsewise OCS or Special Forces or Rangers was like out for me. So I went to the school. I figured more rank, more authority, and more money, more opportunity, all that good stuff. And so there was 3 phases to it. I stayed at Fort Benning for 2 of the stages, and for on the job, went to Fort Polk, Louisiana, training ground for soldiers bound for Vietnam. It was Tiger Land, was the other thing. And I wanted to go to Nam. I really did. I was going to serve my country, all the positive things that we heard about. And so when I got there, I was assigned to the 173rd Airborne, to Echo Company, weapons platoon. I worked with 4 deuce mortars, and for the first 2 weeks. Then they needed forward observers, those that would call in and adjust artillery fire. And so I was assigned to a rifle company. So when they go out in the bush, I'd go with them and call in and adjust and light up the sky and all that kind of stuff. And well, let's see. Then while I was with that company, fella behind me stepped on something, blew his foot off. And then I ended up going to the hospital for a month for frag wounds. And got back out, was sent out to another line company. And, another explosion. So I was sent to the hospital again for a month. But while out in the field, I really actually liked it, as long as nothing was happening. It was like camping, as long as nothing's happening.
Camping.
So I enjoyed that. And then I went to, I got out of the service, was out on the West Coast, being a conservative Midwesterner. I stayed for 6 weeks in California, where my brother and sister-in-law were, and these people in California, really, they're crazy. They was there during the hippie thing, but also the Jesus movement was going on, and I got involved with the Jesus Revolution. It was an exciting time to be alive. And from there, I went back home in the Chicago area, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about all that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's whatever you feel comfortable talking
Really?
about. That's all.
Okay. Well, now that you say that.
Okay, never mind. Everybody's got a chance to talk.
So I was out of the Army. Heads up, the 173rd Airborne Esprit de Corps was incredible. We didn't have racial issues. At least I didn't. They were my good friends. All of Hawaiian, Asian, African American, Caucasian. It didn't matter. I did do some drugs while in Vietnam. When I left Nam, I said, no more. And so that was good. So So I got involved in a lot of things. We started a little, where I was going to college, started a little church there, having Bible studies and things. And we started a street paper. We did concerts and events. It was really a neat time to be alive. I ended up getting involved in construction industry, doing design for heating and air conditioning systems and stuff like that. And here I am today.
And here you are. We're glad you're here with us.
Glad I'm here too.
Got some questions for you, but I'll wait. You want to go ahead and go, Josh?
Yeah, sure. My name is Joshua Deron. I am a peer support specialist, and I also work for Veterans Path to Hope as a Staff Sergeant Fox Suicide Prevention Program Outreach Liaison. I joined the Army in July of 2006 and joined as infantry for my first enlistment. Went over to Iraq, received my combat infantryman's badge, received a Purple Heart for my injuries sustained in a firefight / VBID incident, VBID being a vehicle-borne IED, and started looking at Plan B of what life would look like outside of the military. Re-enlisted to become a military police officer, thinking that could be a smooth transition if something were to happen to my military service. I planned on doing 20 years, but only ended up doing 6.5, and not go into the police field, but kind of transitioned in and out of different jobs for a good 10 years. And then found myself at Veterans Path to Hope, applying for a peer support specialist position that I knew a little bit about and how they operated, but didn't know the full extent to it, and started training up to become a peer support specialist. Started doing trainings like mental health first aid. Ops has a training seminar or training course that goes over how to navigate resources and share those resources with veterans, just to really broaden my experience and really hone in on that craft of being able to provide resources and help veterans that are struggling navigate those resources. And from there, I was grateful enough to be able to be a part of a group that started a gaming program that we utilize to bring around to other organizations, posts, churches, and facilities to put on a gaming environment, and also add that added environment of having resources available as well. So we partner with a couple of different agencies within the community to provide a resource event where veterans and their families can learn about resources available to them and the resources that they're entitled to. And now I am a part of the Staff Sergeant Fox Suicide Prevention grant program that kind of targets that audience. And I'm working with veterans that have experienced suicidal ideations, experienced suicidal attempts, and what that looks like within their life now, and helping them navigate through the resources, and really branching out to other organizations to create that community that assists veterans struggling from all sorts of different barriers, including employment, transportation, food. So at Veterans Path to Hope, we have an indoor walk-in freezer and fridge, and a food pantry that stays relatively well stocked with a whole lot of different things for veterans and their families. And then we also have housing specialists, employment specialists, and we it's a whole health environment of trying to get that veteran back acclimated to the civilian workforce, and continue to hopefully make sure that their level of comfort in their life is good. So that's
definitely. Thank you for the work that you're doing over there.
Thank you.
And for your service, all y'all. Okay, CJ.
Well, Chris, I just want to say thank you for inviting me on, and Josh and Jim. I really appreciate hearing your guys' stories, and I'm glad to be in your guys' presence. I'm CJ Reuschlein. I'm from Michigan originally, so not a big military contingent in Michigan. I didn't really grow up seeing people in uniform. Didn't really have a ton of understanding for the military, to be quite honest. When I was in high school, I started really playing hockey pretty competitively. Ended up moving to Dallas when I was 17. I played a couple years of competitive hockey down in the Dallas metro area. And I started getting recruited to some different colleges to play hockey. So I guess my path to joining the military is a little different, but I ended up committing to play hockey for the United States Military Academy at West Point, something I'm very proud of now. It's a very challenging decision at the time, one that I can really thank my mom and dad for kind of guiding me towards that decision. I'm very glad for it now today. So I made the decision to go to West Point in July 2013. I showed up to boot camp. Excuse me. Never really had any experience in the military. No real family that had been in the military. Didn't know what to expect. Wow, what a whirlwind that was showing up. I had long hair down to my shoulders. They zipped that off right away. And I was like, okay, I'm in it. And it was very challenging 4 years at West Point. They say with passion, it's the hardest 4 years of your life. So you don't have to have 4 hard years again or any more bad years again. So
yeah,
they do a good job of making it challenging, but I learned a lot of leadership, a lot of, you just have so many good people around you from all parts of the world, or not parts of the world, and every state, every municipality, it feels like is represented at West Point. I chose to be a field artillery officer once I graduated. So I graduated in 2017, and I went off the basic officer leadership course at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So I worked with the field artillery too, Jim, my entire time. So I moved from Fort Sill to Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. I was lucky enough to serve out in Hawaii. I really enjoyed it. I know some people don't. It's kind of a hot topic for everybody that you either love or you don't. I really loved it. So I started off as a fire support officer. So I had a team full of Jims running around and, fire for effect, bracketing, all of that fun stuff. You kind of forget it a little bit, but so I moved on from fire support officer to a fire direction officer. So I was in charge of making sure that the cannons were shooting in the right direction at the right spot, so the Jims didn't get hurt downrange. And then from there, I moved into platoon leader, and then I was an executive officer, and then I was a division S4 for a short period of time. I got hurt. I got injured. Didn't feel that I had what it takes to lead my troops any longer. I got hurt. I had the option of staying in, but I would have had to take a modified physical fitness test in order to stay in. I didn't think that was fair to my troops. So I made the decision to get out. As I was transitioning, I feel like that was one of the hardest times of my life. You just, you have the internal pressure from the military where it's like, you're not going to find anything. This is what you're made for. like, best of luck, and we'll support you however we can, but your real calling is here. And that's pretty tough because you make the decision on your own, like, hey, I'm not qualified anymore. It doesn't feel like, to lead troops. So, but at the same time, it's like, well, good luck finding anything out there. I was very lucky when I was serving. So I was out in Hawaii, obviously the islands, very far away from Michigan, my home. So that time that I got to take, the 4 weeks a year, 2 in the summer, 2 in the winter, to go be with your family, was super important. Every delayed flight or canceled flight is very meaningful. So as I was, I kind of had an eye for the airline industry. It's something I wanted to be able to give back. I still feel a calling, and I felt the calling at the time to help the American people. I'm not saying that I'm doing a ton, but if I can prevent, 1 or 2 cancellations or 1 or 2 delays from what I do, I work for United Airlines. I find a lot of value in that personally. So I was lucky enough to get a job at United Airlines, fantastic company. As soon as I started, and I do logistics, so I'm in warehousing and distribution for United Airlines. And I was lucky when I got into, I work in Denver out of Denver International Airport. When I got to Denver, people around started asking me, hey, we've got this military veteran support. We've got this recruiting fair. Would you be interested? So as soon as I started giving back to our community and the allies of the community to provide more opportunities for people to join United Airlines, one of the biggest employers in Colorado and in the Denver area for sure. So I was lucky enough every year. We have an event, or there is an event that the DAV puts on called the National Disabled Veteran Winter Sports Clinic. It gives people an opportunity that, have physical ailments that preclude them from typical recreation. It gives them an opportunity to come up and experience winter sports and everything that the Colorado mountains have to offer. And it's just such an inspirational event. So I work, United Airlines has a business resource group, which is just like a community within the company for, like-minded individuals to come together and give back to whatever cause that they support. And I'm on the board of directors for United for Veterans, which is our Veterans and Allies resource group. And I'm on the community. I'm the board, or the director of community impact and engagement. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm excited to see what we get into and talk about.
Yes, well, thank you for all of that. And I just have to say that I was actually with United Airlines as well. And I attended as many of those veteran meetings and stuff that I could participate in as well. But I quit my job last May so that I could do this full time. So we're starting off, and we're just seeing where it takes us. It's been an adventure so far.
It's funny how later on in life we sort of sift through the experiences we've had, and we might change our mind or God, the Lord, give us an opportunity. And that's what happened to me when I was probably mid 60s. I got a letter from the VA saying that they would send me to voc rehab, probably because I was having difficulty. I drove 50,000 miles a year, and it was hard on me because of the frag still in my leg. And so I said, okay, where does an old guy get a job these days? If they're going to send me back to school. And so I thought about, I loved kids. I've been around kids all my life, probably because I am still one. And, funny how special education. So I talked to the counselor there, and they said, sure, Jim, we'll finish your degree. Moody, we'll send you to grad school, and you can be a teacher. So I figured I needed to know what I was getting into. So I went to Huntley High School to work in their special ed department. And while there, I spoke to a social worker. The social worker said, Jim, you really ought to look at social work. It's very diverse, and you're not doing the same thing every day, repetitious. So I looked into it, and I thought, I was amazed. And so I went and got in a non-traditional program. I got my degree for social work, master's of social work, with a clinical emphasis. But I love the kids so much, I stayed there for another 3 years. And then I figured the VA has paid for me to go to school. I might as well use it. I found that there was a job opening with the VA as a readjustment counselor for vet centers. Vet centers are the best kept counseling secret in the whole VA because they have a less structured approach and is more easy to identify with dealing with your stuff, really readjusting after you've been in combat, after you've been in any military service. What's it like to be a civilian again? We want to help you. And I found the thing that I thought God had always intended me to be. And here I am, almost 70. But so I worked for 4 years for him before I retired and really enjoyed working with veterans big time. It was therapeutic for me to talk about my stuff with someone else and that helped them. It was cool.
Yeah. Life is like that. It's like the struggles that we go through, we're able to encourage other people when they're going through it.
Right.
So I did want to ask, because it seems like y'all are in, or have had, or still are in different leadership positions. So let's go back to the military. How much leadership, I guess, skills do you think that you learned there? And popcorn, whoever wants to go first.
Well, I guess I'll kick it off and I'll move it around. But I mean, everybody leads themselves first and foremost. I mean, that's one of the things that you learn first in boot camp is you've got to lead yourself in order to lead others. Everybody's responsible for somebody, if it's your battle buddy or your squad or your platoon or your division. The military really instills accountability and discipline. Obviously, I feel like everybody kind of knows that on the outside looking in, but man, there's just so much opportunity with such a diverse group of people from every walk of life in America. And you just have an opportunity to lead in a way that I haven't really experienced it outside of the military. You know, it's like a cohesive team. Everybody's kind of going towards the same goal. Some of the stuff might be challenging or difficult, but you have your brothers and sisters in arms to work with to get through it. So yeah, I would say that there's no better leadership crucible that you can experience outside the military, but that's coming from somebody that's a veteran. So take it with a grain of salt.
Well, and also with that, so what was your, I guess, your favorite or your best led team, whether you were being led or you were leading it, which group?
Interesting.
I would say it was more of not as much of a team, but like a time period, which I think drove like a very unique team setting. So during COVID, I served during COVID. Most of the military, don't come in and, stay at home. We don't want anybody getting sick. But it's the military and, infantry, field artillery, a lot of the ground force units. There's not a ton to do if you're not out training for war. So we started doing some pretty cool things when I was a platoon leader, and I'm so grateful for it. We just scheduled time every day to talk. Like that's what we did. Make sure everybody was okay. Make sure everybody was, awake, breathing, doing all right. And we would just talk about everything from, racial injustice during the George Floyd riots and everybody's upbringing and where they come from. And I just got such a great picture of who these people were. And it brought us really close together coming out of COVID. But while we were in it, it was just very special to learn so much about people and how all the different stuff that's going on in society was, their little stories that, could broaden my understanding of what's going on and how people are impacted differently by it. So I would say that was the most impactful experience I had, was being able to lead those discussions and keep them from kind of going off the rails, and in a educational manner where everybody could learn about one another and their backgrounds. That was to this day one of my favorite experiences in my life, being able to be a part of that.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah.
I would say being in the infantry, there's a saying that the military breaks you down to bring you back up in their own image. And some of that is discipline, selfless service. And that goes to a leadership aspect where you're really looking after your soldiers and making sure that they are getting taken care of. For one, if they're looking for educational benefits, the military has some great opportunities while you're still serving to also take free classes and stuff like that. And I think having the leadership that I had, I got twofold. I was able to see leadership that I knew I didn't want to be. And then I also got to see leadership where it's like, wow, that's really a good concept and should be part of the toolkit. And so taking that into the civilian life, it's that same leadership style of making sure that your guys are still good, still follows. The military, it's a we operation. We are making this successful. We are completing the mission. And so taking that into the civilian life, I've noticed that there is a difference between veterans and civilians, where veterans is the we mission, and the civilian workforce is a I thing. I completed this, I got this done. And taking that same concept of the we ideology and bringing it into the workforce, and it was probably easy to do at Veterans Path to Hope, but I've worked for like the CTA in Chicago and other companies. It's very difficult to implement that to individuals that may not see it that way. There's jobs out there where people are just there to make that dollar and make a living. And the we aspect isn't really there. And so it was very difficult when I first got out, because it's like, oh, we did this and we did this and we're able to accomplish things. And then you're watching your team members, other employees of that company go, oh, I did this and I did this. And you're like, no, we did this. And so the difficulty between that leadership skills of making sure that the whole team gets accounted for, I think that's something really instilled in us in the military. And also accountability. I mean, if you mess up, it's easier to just admit to it now instead of trying to hide it or play the blame game. Well, it's not my reason, the FM book wasn't there, or, this procedure wasn't done. It's their fault. You didn't get that opportunity in the military. And so taking accountability is really big, especially when you're working in the environments that we do, whether it be working for United, working as a peer support specialist, working as a social worker. That accountability factor plays a role in every portion of that. And I would say just being able to come from an environment where it's multicultural, you get to see a lot of life in the military, whether you're going to Iraq, Hawaii, Fort Campbell, Italy, 173rd, you get to see a lot of different things, a lot of different cultures. And I went to Korea, and that was a culture shock because they do things a little bit different than us. the way that their produce is, the way their traffic is. I don't think I've seen, you go down 31 or 14, there's a lot of traffic lights. You don't have that in Korea. And people, it's the way that they transition and make left turns. It can be nerve-wracking at times. But they grew up in that environment, and then sharing that experience with soldiers and other service members that are over in their country. I think a lot of people take for granted a lot of those small things of being able to have someone teach you someone else's way. So like the Katusas over in Korea, they really help American soldiers learn how to navigate the Korean nightlife and what the should and should not of that environment. And you just take that all away, and you're able to compact that into your own little toolkit of leadership and bring it to the civilian platform and implement where it can be implemented. Again, probably very easier for me to do it at Veterans Path to Hope. I'm involved with a lot of different veterans, and they understand that construct of leadership and how to get the mission done. And so it's definitely a huge benefit. I don't know how well it would work with non-veteran employees, but
it's a lot of work, right? Where's the I in team?
Well, I thought that was a really great point. I feel like the accountability and discipline that's instilled in you in the military really translates to like a humility outside into the civilian world. It feels like military veterans have a little bit more humility, and that's that we versus I. When they get into the civilian workforce, they're used to picking people up and making sure that they're helping everybody around them. So one team, and it really translates to that's a team player. He's very humble. He's willing to take the blame, or he's willing to do extra to help out his battle buddies. And I think that's a really awesome point. I'm sure you see it a lot with your work. It's people don't know how to talk about themselves and how to go into build a resume or go into an interview or like advocate for themselves. Like, I am right for this job. My background might not say it, but I know that I can do this job. That's the hard part. But once they get in, it's most of the people are very successful. I find.
Yeah, because instinct just takes over, and they just do.
People are switching jobs so frequently too. You're never staying in the same job for more than a year or two, or you might be in one MOS, but you're changing different like ways that you're doing that MOS or different job roles, and you just become very adaptable. And you can really figure out how to be good at your job quick, and then be very good at your job quick, and then be able to sustain it and teach the next guy how to do it, and then move on to your next role. I think that there's a lot of value in that, especially in corporate America.
Definitely.
And there's from being an officer to being enlisted, there's also different leadership skills there as well. Right off the bat, lieutenants and stuff like that, we get in the military, we get to make fun of them being a butter bar, getting us lost in the woods and stuff. But that's not their main mission. Their main mission
Can't spell lost without LT.
right. Their mission is very different than the enlisted portion in that, and that falls on your platoon sergeants and your E5s and your E4s to really make sure that we don't get lost. There are times where officers are like, no, I don't like that route. We're going this way. And you end up in a swamp. But, it's all a part of the journey. And at the end of the day, when you're able to look back at that and also talk to your other battle buddies or people that you've served with, and you remember when LT so-and-so got us lost in the woods, or
Good times.
Sergeant
Not for the LT.
got the vehicle stuck, and it's just to be able to look back on those good times and still have those relationships and conversations with those guys is a lot of fun. And again, just a lot of fun.
My experience with that leadership thing is in a sense magnified in that in combat, the decisions that are made are life critical. And so in Vietnam, when you were talking about what you learned about leadership or observed, there's a bunch of stuff, especially if you go to one of the leadership schools. Because the guy who led one class in a leadership school, he was like the Hulk. The most commanding guy you could think of. It was the leadership class, of course. And he was an enlisted man, plenty of a rank. But what I did enjoy is seeing leadership demonstrated in different situations. And it gives you a sense of evaluation of what works and what doesn't, what's good, what's bad, what seriously could cause a lot of problems. And one thing I liked about observing people in Vietnam was how that was all magnified, because I remember the first rifle company commander that we had was a West Point grad, and he was just oozing. You'd want to follow this guy anywhere. He was not outspoken. He was just confident. And he knew what he was going to do, and you could tell that he wasn't going to risk anybody just for whatever. And then I had another company commander in a unit out in the field, and he was, I don't know where he went to school, probably OCS. And this guy would put us in danger just for his own, probably his own career. And made really bad decisions, and then there'd be situations where if it didn't matter what your rank was, time in the field is valuable experience, and you better listen to that guy that's been in the field. And because there was a situation where this lieutenant was not used to being out in the bush, but he was over a platoon, a mini fire base, mortars and stuff like that. And then he got transferred to a rifle company. And so anyhow, one platoon is going to meet up with another platoon. And one of the RTO said, Lieutenant so-and-so, we should call ahead, have them disconnect the automatic ambushes. Basically claymore set off with a tripwire. And he said, no, we're going to be all right. That little group of guys walked into their own ambush. And it was unfortunate, only because his RTO said, we should call ahead, to have them disconnect them. So little things like that happen. And watching how different people handle different types of situations, I felt was a really good experience. A lot is said in the last 10 to 20 years about leadership, is the whole servant leadership thing. And I think leadership is being taught more with that sort of approach than the top-down thing that we're familiar with from the 50s and perhaps the 60s. So life's a good education. It's good to be observant.
Yeah, and even in the civilian world, you've got a boss.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so there's
You
good
know what?
leaders
I'll
and
swap on mic here.
okay.
'Cause I want to mention something on the leadership side. If you guys don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
So listen, I'm hearing the stories, and number one, you guys are all awesome. Hats off to you guys for doing what you do. As a leadership development coach, I have been in many situations on showing what true leadership is. And true leadership isn't rank. It isn't knowledge. It
Sure.
kind of goes hand in hand with experience, but it's based on confidence and trust. Those are the two main components. So real quick exercise. Can I get everybody to raise your hand? Everybody right now, raise your hand. Okay. Can I get you to raise it higher? How come you didn't give me 100% the first time? Because you have no idea why I'm asking you to raise your hand. Why? Because you don't know the fat guy behind the booth very well. You don't know Cappuccino. You don't know why I'm asking you to raise your hand. But you guys are trained as brothers in the field. And once you get to know each other, you get to build those relationships and trust each other because you have to have your six, correct? So true leadership could be the guy on the low totem pole leading you out of danger. True leadership could be the guy who digs the latrine all day that's getting you out of the fire. True leadership are the ones that they might have experience, but they don't necessarily have your best interest in mind. True leadership are the ones that you trust and that you're confident to trust. So a quick question for you guys would be, and quick answers, because man, this went fast today.
Always.
There's going to be that one guy or that one person in your life, especially in the military, and I've heard these stories before as I've had these conversations before, that instilled that trust and confidence that made you go, I'm going to carry that forward and become a leader. And so I'll hop swap back out real quick. And then Chris, if you want, I can wrap us up at the end. You just give me the signal. I'll swap back in.
Okay.
Okay.
That's easy.
So I got a few people that I could give that acknowledgement to. Being from infantry and went over to MP, those are obviously two different jobs. And it's definitely different. In the infantry world, you don't have to watch what you say a lot. In the MP world, you have to be kind of honed back. And one NCO in particular, Staff Sergeant Beal, he really helped me and guided me through that transition from infantry to MP. I was a hothead infantryman. Yeah. I thought I knew my stuff, and coming into a different realm where I was like, oh, this is going to be super familiar, and it really wasn't. Was really a difference. And having that NCO there that had the patience to actually work with me was definitely beneficial. And then on the infantry side, usually the BA guy, right, is the leader and stuff like that. And I had the privilege of being a gunner for Sergeant Major Fields, and he was the poster child of infantry. Or as far as I see it, and this guy had the tabs. He went to the schools, and he really guided his soldiers to make better choices and make better decisions overall.
There's a story I heard about 9/11 when the towers were hit. And there was an elevator that was trying to go down so they can get out. And it got stuck between two floors. And in the elevator, there were professional people, because of the purpose of the building was for a lot of money, a lot of position. And so these people were, quote, leaders in their industry. And there was another fellow in the elevator. It was the janitor. And so when the elevator stopped, everybody was freaking out. And the janitor said, listen, I can get the doors open. I can get us out of here. So he did. He got them out so they could go down the stairs instead. And the question is, who was the leader in that room? Was the guy with most money? The fanciest briefcase, the greatest clothes? They depended upon this guy, and hopefully they made it all the way down. So it's just life is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like what you said about leading yourself first. Yeah. I've got to get a better handle on that. I think that's great wisdom.
Yeah. I think that's a very interesting question and a tough question. Coming from like the officer world, I had some fantastic leaders. If they ever hear it, Chris Hardy, Jesse Montgomery, Adam O'Donnell, those are some of my favorite leaders I had a chance to be under. But like more generally, it was my soldiers.
Right.
Like it wasn't me, it wasn't the people above me, it was the people on the front line that you could like, oh, hey, I need to go do like we're gonna do a site recon. Like this person, that person want to go. Like their confidence and their passion and their vigor for getting things done, even when they don't want to, or it might not be fun, or that it might be a challenge. That was always really inspiring to me. And that's what drove me to want to be the best leader for them, is because I would see them and the way that they would react and the way that they would support each other and support me. It was always about them. And I never really looked at it like my leader above me is giving me really great direction. That doesn't really mean much. It's the people on the ground that are doing it. And if you can figure out how to inspire enough people to have that confidence or passion or integrity, obviously super critical, to get the job done. That was what was inspiring me. And people that empower leaders, everyone's a leader in the military. When you empower people to get things done, the results are incredible.
Yeah.
Obviously you can't just let everyone do whatever they want and just call it leadership, but like, there's targeted way to go about it to get the most out of everybody and just have trust and confidence in your people. That's my 2 cents.
Mhm.
Mhm.
100%. Great answers.
Confidence is
Yeah.
important. I think that used to be, for 13 years, I was involved with Boy Scouts as Scoutmaster and stuff like that. My son. And I think it was one of the neatest, greatest programs for development of leadership that the country's ever had. Because you'd start out with little guys at all sorts of ages. And they would learn one rank at a time how to advance. And they were put in leadership roles. A young kid, what does he know? Well, there was another guy a little bit older than him that could show him what to do. And that model just worked out all the way through till by the time they're their senior year of high school or something like that, they've led the whole troop. And regardless of the age, I think there's a lot that can be learned about leadership that we can teach our children. It would be helpful. Military stuff does do that to us. We walk in a room and we know if there's a leadership vibe in the room. And if it's not there,
Something's off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like an innate ability. I agree with you. You can just be like, okay, this is a good environment for what we're trying to get accomplished, or, we got to fix the vibe to make sure that we're getting the most out of whatever we're doing.
I knew this teacher that I think it was probably a leadership class, that one of the things he would do at the beginning of the school year is that the students would come in and he'd just read a newspaper in the front of the class. To himself, provide no leadership whatsoever, just to provide opportunity actually, but the kids didn't know what was going on. When we going to start? It started as soon as you walked in the room. And so it was a good example of seeing where people are at in their leadership skill and then help develop that. Pretty cool.
Wow. Well, normally I don't answer these questions, but I'm going to step out there and answer that question. So, only because we're talking about leadership and the people that influenced us or were not so, they were influencing us in what not to do. So I'll say this preface first. I had gotten out of an abusive relationship, and that was quite long. And then I went into law enforcement. And so my chief was, and this was like 20 years ago or something, you don't belong here. You should be barefoot and pregnant at home.
Oh, wow.
You have no value whatsoever. Every
I know
time
where
I
you're
saw
going with
him, he was like that. But my sergeant, Fred Cook, he just was like just so encouraging, you know, and so he taught me how to behave in law enforcement. You know, you are in the public's eye, you act a certain way, and you never know who is watching you. But he would always say these things like at review time. He would say, I'm never going to give you a 10 because you're never going to be perfect. There's only one who is perfect and who's crucified for it. And there's always room for improvement, you know? And it was like, that was like so freeing because it's like, okay, so I don't have to perform to some rate that I don't even know how to attain that. You know, it's just, you do your best. You do your best every day in whatever you're doing, you know? So, I know
what you can control.
that's right. That's right. So, I've got his Fred-isms. He would say things. So, I know our time is about up, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
Oh, we have, we've got donuts from Dunkin' Donuts today.
Okay.
And we also have a gift from Fire Bar today. Yes, Fire Bar.
So big shout out to Fire Bar here located in Crystal Lake and to the local Dunkin' Donuts here for 5 million donuts that we got here
Yes,
for
off
7
of
people, which is awesome.
31 and 176.
So 31 and 176. We
Yes.
do appreciate the support that you guys are giving. And listen, guys, once again, we appreciate everything. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube. Hit that live tab, 216 Creator Studios. Like, share, subscribe, ding that bell for future notifications. Remember, there is no I in team, but there is me. I am Drew Cappuccino. Roger that Chronicles. Until next time, folks, enjoy the rest of your day.
See ya.
Thank you. Bye now.